we just did.
Hal said 3, 2, 1 recording.
So. Yeah.
That's what he said?
I lied, though, because I wanted to make sure everybody's
He's a liar, man.
We are recording now, however.
God. Oh, he's lying again.
No, I'm actually telling the truth.
Hal.
There's
Even when I'm lying to you, I'm being very honest about my lies.
There are two Hals. One only tells the truth and one only lies.
My
welcome to
my dad used to tell me that all the time, like that whole riddle thing, and I thought he was so smart until I saw Labyrinth when I was 22 years old.
I love Labyrinth.
I also saw Labyrinth in my mid-20s, and I was like, this is okay.
He didn't even let me finish it. We got halfway through.
You very well could have finished it without me.
No, but
I just was very disinterested in
Everybody, are they talking about sex or are they talking about Labyrinth at this point?
Oh, what's the difference?
You could have finished, but I was very disinterested.
We don't need to talk about it.
Oh, new game. Are they talking about sex or Labyrinth? The bulge was so big.
It was so wide.
Labyrinth.
It was too easy to get through.
Excuse me?
And then there was this really tight part, and I couldn't even squeeze in.
It's still Labyrinth we're talking about. And then all the goblins showed up and stole our baby. That's the sex part.
Yeah, actually.
Well, we have 2 factions in our house.
Ooh.
Well, 3 if you count us, but there's the wall people and there's the goblins.
Oh.
And which one is nocturnal? The goblins, I think.
No, the wall people are nocturnal.
No, but the wall.
But the goblins are the ones that make my mistakes.
No. It's the goblins that are nocturnal because we can't see them because we're sleeping, and then the wall people are just naturally invisible.
No, they're in the walls.
So you guys have a haunted house? Cool.
No, I made up the goblins because sometimes Ryan will be like, "Who didn't put their shoes away?" And I'll be like, "Those fucking goblins." I don't know.
The shoe goblins.
Oh, God damn those goblins.
Back
at it again.
If they're stealing shoes, they're coblins.
Ah.
Coblins. No.
They take responsibility for my actions.
Yeah. I always try to portmanteau words. But yeah, because we're 2 minutes in, welcome to Depression Vacation this week. We have Ryan again, our favorite hanger-on to the podcast.
I'm hanging on.
He's here to defend his title against Wallace.
No, he'll never beat Wallace because he doesn't listen to the fucking podcast.
What? No. Yes. No.
Ryan's like, I live the podcast. I don't need to listen to it.
Honestly.
When I'm not on it, I'm hearing about it. I get the general idea.
Yeah. But yeah, that's fun. Labyrinth.
Yeah. So we're going to open with the weather. It's raining.
Yeah, it's gross.
Back to you, Hal.
Yeah, it's super gross. Well, actually, I don't find this weather to be gross at this point because the gross weather was the extremely hot weather that's been going down. And the second it got cold, I looked at my phone last night and it said high was going to be 60 degrees today. And I'm like, well, that has to be a typo. And then I asked my Alexa, and the Alexa was like, yeah, it's going to be 60 degrees, but the low's also going to be 57 degrees. So that's a pretty...
Hal just triggered all the robots for people listening to the podcast.
Oh my God. Last night my living room or my den Alexa goes by computer, and I was watching Nathan For You, and they were doing the... are you both familiar with Nathan For You?
Nah.
Oh my God. If I'm imploring both of you to watch this show immediately.
What's it on?
It's on HBO Max and Hulu, but HBO or Max.
We have those.
We could watch it twice at the same time.
Max is ad free. You have to watch. Hulu might trigger the ads based on the plan you have. Because I started watching it on Hulu, and then decided to switch to Max so I didn't have to watch ads.
Listen, Hal, I am not a rich man.
So the premise of the show and why I think this is actually I tell people to watch shows casually all the time, but Nathan For You is a AAA recommendation because I think it's one of the best comedy shows of the last 10 years. And the whole premise of the show, which I don't know why nobody thought of doing this until 2016, is it's a parody of fixer-upper reality TV shows. But all the people are real. It's a prank show presented like it's a fixer-upper show. And what Nathan Fielder does is he just in this very weird, monotone and awkward character gives the worst possible advice to people trying to fix up their businesses.
I love this.
For instance, the very first episode, there's a struggling frozen yogurt place, and he suggests to them that they introduce a special poo flavored ice cream to get national attention and to get people into their store.
I'm already on board.
It is like the number of episodes, like I was even watching it this morning, like because I've seen it so many times, and it still makes me laugh because some of it is kind of mean-spirited and cringe because these are all real people that he's doing these things to.
No. So it's kind of like Impractical Jokers a little bit.
It's very subtle is the thing. Like you
Okay.
could my favorite episode, for instance, he's trying to help a logistics company ship things duty-free to international countries, and their biggest thing that they ship, for instance, are smoke detectors, which carry like a 35% rate for some reason. But then he finds out that musical instruments are free to ship to most countries, so he tries to get them to rebrand their smoke detectors as blues smoke detectors, and he actually puts together like a band to record a prominent song using the smoke detector. And it is the funniest thing in the world because everybody he tries to like sell this song to is listening, likes the song a little bit, and then they hear the beep, 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 like every 5 or 6 seconds. And you can see like the audible like winces every time. And they're like, well, the song might be good if you removed the beeping noise.
That's hilarious.
It's like, I've talked enough about this show on the podcast already for this like 4 minutes. But yeah, if nobody has seen Nathan For You, and by some extension, The Rehearsal, which was on HBO last year, it's not quite as funny and it's a lot more meta. But the show gets pretty meta at some points.
Well, you mentioned commercials a little bit ago, and we've been having some commercials.
Yeah.
Because we've been watching Jeopardy on Peacock.
No, it's on Pluto.
Oh, Pluto.
And here's the thing.
Yeah, Pluto's.
I wanted to bring this up because Ryan and I are currently binge watching Jeopardy.
Yeah.
And we are binge watching Ken Jennings' run on Jeopardy.
Oh, so I've actually, as much as I love Jeopardy, I was not really that into it when he was on in 2004, I want to say.
Well, it's kind of a shoo-in of who's going to win every episode.
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
won 74, I want to say.
So it is 74. I looked it up. And we just saw his 28th appearance. So we've been watching a lot of Jeopardy. But the thing is, like, it's really fun to watch it all like back to back to back because you just see the light in Alex Trebek's eyes die a little bit at a time. And it's kind of fun. And it's hilarious because like on episode like 13 or 14 of Ken Jennings' run, Alex Trebek pulls out this timesheet and he's like, "We've added Ken to the timesheet." And I'm just like, motherfucker, it's only episode 13, just you wait. So I just want to see like when we get to like in the 50s, like he's just going to be begging people like, please, this man is in my waking nightmares, just make it stop.
I think I saw maybe one episode during the original run of him. Ooh, sorry. And he had mentioned like during the talking segment, he's like, yeah, we've run out of things to talk about, haven't we, Ken? And this was still like 20 episodes before he ended up like...
Oh, he just said it like not too long ago in our watch through.
He
So
was
Ken
like, Ken walks away.
I was not a huge fan of his when they introduced him initially as like the guest host, but he grew on me quite a bit because Ken Jennings, and the reason I think he's like, it's definitely not a shoo-in to say he's the best Jeopardy player of all time, because until recently he actually had lost every tournament appearance to Brad Rutter, Lancaster native, and also Super Jeopardy player. But Ken Jennings' style has been very adaptive. Like, they did that Greatest of All Time tournament, which is probably what got him the hosting gig on Jeopardy, I think. And they put him and Brad Rutter, who was his, like, Jeopardy nemesis, against James Holzhauer, who was, like, the big wheeling, dealing...
Is Brad the one with the funny glasses?
No, I don't think so.
He was very... There was a guy who was part of, like, Tournament of Champions who was very handsome.
Oh, we're talking about Buzzy Cohen, I'm pretty sure.
We are talking about Buzzy Cohen.
Buzzy Cohen is my all-time favorite Jeopardy
Brad was
player.
the one who was like, oh, hey, James' score didn't change.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, he was shit-talking.
Yeah, he was just... So Brad Rutter was he was the all-time, not just Jeopardy winner, but he was the all-time game show earnings winner in international television history until they did this Greatest of All Time tournament. And he had also really been angling to host Jeopardy when Alex Trebek died or retired. Like, he was not subtle about saying he wanted to do that. And for whatever reason in that Tournament of Champions, Brad absolutely bombed. I don't think they were expecting this, but there were a lot of games he ended up in the negative for points where he just couldn't and this was somebody who was like considered to be one of the best Jeopardy players of all time, and he got smoked. He won 0 matches. Ken Jennings won 3, and James Holzhauer got 1, but came very close to a second one. And Ken Jennings adapted his style. He knew that James Holzhauer was going to bet big, so he did the same things he did. He bet big, and he smoked everybody. So I think that he's not just very good at trivia, he's very good at games.
Well, that's what I've noticed about Ken Jennings is that like it's not like he gets every single answer right, but he does bet very intelligently. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he like as a for instance, like how he was not a huge bettor in some of those games. James Holzhauer won either 29 or like 31, somewhere in that range of games. And he was only like maybe $100,000 off of what Ken Jennings had earned in 72 games. So, or 74. I can't.
74.
Yeah.
I've been hyper focused on this, so that's.
Oh man, let's have Jeopardy watching parties sometime because Jeopardy is really my jam. Like
I love Jeopardy, and I'm really good at it when I'm just like playing along, and then I go to take the test and they ask me all these stupid ass questions that I don't know the answer to, and I'm just like, that's not fair.
Ask me questions I know the answer to, so I can be rich, famous, and happy.
Oh Hal, I think we need to talk about that last time.
You get
yeah. This is just how Hal was raised again. Money equates to happiness, and my dad still. I've talked about this a lot. Like he talks about money all the time as an equation of happiness. Like
I kind of. But listen, money would solve most of my problems.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like it's kind of like one of our grandfathers like. He is very much a fan of money, and I'm just like, but at this point, what happiness does it bring you?
Yeah. No, he seriously, we asked him on like his 80th birthday, what's your favorite like hobby? You know, what do you enjoy doing?
Money.
And he was like, I like to look at the bank account and see every time a zero, I make that benchmark another $1,000 and we're like, that's what you do for fun?
Well, and I'm
besides watch Fox News?
It makes it really hard when you're trying to buy for him because I've bought.
That's, yeah.
Like
that might be a word.
No. I, like, every single thing you could possibly buy for a grandfather at this point, I've bought it. And so I'm running out of ideas. And at this point, I just have to give him dollar bills.
Yeah, that's also the thing with my dad is that, like, it is, and I'm the same way for very, very different reasons, but my dad is impossible to get gifts for because he doesn't really like anything. And like we always really struggle to like get him. In fact, I bought a new pair of Crocs the other day, and they are so comfortable and they're like spring loaded that I let my mom try one, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get one for me, and I'm gonna get one for your father for Christmas." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. Why not just give them to him now so he has the extra 3 months of his feet not hurting?" And she's like, "I really have to save up gifts because your father hates everything." But what we did last year was similar. We kind of gave him money, Ryan. My sisters and I pulled together and we gave him a trip to Atlantic City and like because he loves playing poker, and we gave him, I think it was like $150-ish specifically to be used at the poker table. And do you want to guess how much money he turned that $150 into?
I don't
400.
Burp, 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 burp.
Oh, wait.
$3 million.
Burp, 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 burp.
3,000.
For those who
No,
can't see.
he won $1,500. I want to say 15 or 1,600
in profit, or is that minus the 150?
It was probably minus 150, so like $1,400. But like, and then of course he like because he made so much money, he took my mom to a fancy dinner and everything. So he netted probably like $1,200 and a free trip full of fancy stuff essentially. So that was probably the best Christmas present we ever gave him.
Oh yeah,
because he turned it into so much like money. He actually has pretty good luck on these poker. Like he gets very, very down if he loses, but that's also kind of the swings of gambling. But he has won free cruises in poker tournaments and lots of other things.
Oh, so. Speaking of gambling, we never even talked about the commercials on Jeopardy.
Oh, right. Go ahead.
Okay.
There's gambling commercials?
Yes.
Probably for DraftKings or stuff like that.
DraftKings and mobile games.
And mobile
Bad
games.
Mobile games.
Yeah. The mobile games are like a big thing.
Well, I keep seeing, it's that grandma one. What's it called? Grandma's Mansion?
Yeah.
No, something.
Oh, Grandma's Mansion.
No, it's
every commercial is like this animated, like woman sending her mom away on a bus and crying and being like, "Goodbye, grandma." And then in the next scene, the grandma's going down an escalator, all sneaky.
Yeah, like she went like right through the train and like to the other, and like she didn't actually go.
Is this a gambling addiction commercial? Or?
No, it's
well, there is
it's
the
like
one
a mystery
that's
game.
like. Addicted to gambling, not yet. You're not, bitch.
That's not real.
Oh my
I
God!
don't believe
There's
you.
only the one that's like, you better get addicted to this game soon because it makes my monkey brain go ooh, ooh ah ah.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is.
And I'm like, please mute this, Shannon.
I feel like they do those like intentional. Like one of my favorite like things that happened when I moved back from California was right on the 83 bridge next to the billboard that Savannah's owns and always advertises for Savannah's. Somebody rented the billboard right down from it and put a she's somebody's daughter.org commercial there. And I thought that was a pretty funny juxtaposition.
We see that all the time in Duncannon. If anybody's familiar with the stretch of 22-322 that runs right by
Haven't done it in a while. So.
Well, it's on.
Haven't gone through Duncannon in a while. So.
I was going to say that specific part of Duncannon.
Are there a lot of strip clubs there or something?
There are so many. To be fair, though, some of them have shut down in recent years.
There's like one and then 3 closed down ones.
I bet one of the closed down ones, I do know the Cabin because the Cabin was where my friend Harry and his, he did a couple of rap shows there. In fact, you'll meet him for VidJam because he's going to be part of our team this year.
VidJam.
He's a very sweet guy. He's probably not listening, but I went to a couple of shows there. They were very aggressive strip clubs. Like I went to the outside portion where, there were not strippers. Strippers are not kind of my thing at all.
No.
And as soon as I walked in, one of the
not Duncannon strippers.
Well, yeah, one of the strippers. As soon as I walked in, she's like, "Hey, fella, how you doing?" And she twisted my nipple, and I'm like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, this is not what I want."
Do we need to unpack this?
This is a house of horrors.
That's not a normal thing.
That's like that. The first thing that reminded me of was my first year that I went to Field of Screams, and I was in.
Somebody twisted your nipple at Field of Screams.
No, I walked in. There was the asylum, and I rounded a corner, and there was a little girl, like monster zombie ghost thing. Well, she had a toothbrush and she shoved it at me, and it literally went into my mouth and like hit my gum and like literally cut open my gum. So I'm like, I don't know what diseases I have now, but I was like, are you kidding? So that's what that reminded me of, House of Horrors. Like, you walk in and they're just like, your nipple, I'm twisting it.
Yeah, that's something they probably did in Blackout House, but that's a little bit different.
There's a house that my friends and I were talking about, the really sus one.
You're talking about McCamey Manor, possibly.
Yeah.
Oh my! So they've done several. One of my favorite documentaries to watch every Halloween season, since we're getting into Halloween season everywhere.
Halloween.
It used to be on Netflix, but I think I had to watch it on Tubi the last 2 years.
I know which one you're talking about.
It's Art of the Scare.
No, I'm sorry. I was not thinking of a documentary. I was thinking of The House October Built.
Oh, those are two of my favorite movies also to watch.
But that's pretty much the concept that we're talking about. Yeah.
In fact, interestingly enough, like the really big blue skeleton house that they go into at the end is not as extreme as McCamey Manor. Like, for those of you listening out there who are not that familiar, McCamey Manor is essentially like
torture porn.
Yeah, it is torture. It is. I wanted to say legal, but it's actually been chased out of so many different municipalities because of, like they started in San Diego actually, according to the documentary, and then they had to move to like Tennessee because of the regulations there, and then Tennessee chased them out too. And I'm not exactly sure where they are, but I would bet you that McCamey Manor still operates somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the thing about them is they've got a liability waiver that's like, Jesus, like dozens of pages long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so extreme. It's not, and I think it's just. I have a conspiracy theory. My conspiracy theory is that he actually uses this as a way to murder people.
Yeah.
And we just don't know.
Well, he did. Kill might be a strong word, but in the documentary, actually, one of the people they were filming, because this guy also films part of the thing is that he films everything, which might also be to prove he's not killing people.
Shit, though.
But one of the guys in the documentary, his heart stopped, and they had to stop the whole thing and resuscitate him. And this is part of why you can't sign a waiver for that level of stuff legally. Like, you can't sign a waiver saying, oh, if they kill me while they're shoving garbage into my mouth and drowning me, then they're not liable. So
Yeah, I mean, one of those things, and then that's something that comes up a lot with horror movies and, the genre in general, is like, we want to push the envelope, but like how far is too far? And definitely McCamey Manor is way too far.
So this plays into something I wanted to talk a little bit about today on the podcast too, because I had a bit of a revelation in the last week that might be a big thing about my psyche, and haunted houses play into it a little bit.
Okay, share.
So like when I was like a kid and they would take me to like haunted hayrides and haunted houses, I was absolutely terrified. Like, I would close my eyes, I would kind of cry and just like not want to do anything, which made me a target for all of the ghosts out there.
As you do.
And then when I was in 8th grade, did you ever go to the Haunted Mill? Like, it's in like Mengus Mills. Like, I don't know if it still operates or not, but its whole thing was like, it was a long, like 2.5 hour walk through haunted house, like super long. And that scarred me in 8th grade to the point where I still have like nightmares about being in haunted houses that are like 20 hours long as a result of that. But then like 2 years later, I kind of just decided to like face my fears, do haunted houses, and then I was really into them for a while. But I haven't done them since I've moved, like in the 9 years I've been back here, I haven't done a single one. And I think that I didn't really ever enjoy haunted houses necessarily. It was just some sort of like perverse way of proving to myself I wasn't afraid when I was afraid. And I think that applies to literally everything in my life. Like, I'm not 100% sure I enjoy performing or doing any of the stuff that I do. I think it's like maybe some perverse way of proving I'm not afraid of it. And also like maybe the way that you like going on roller coasters or haunted houses. Like, there's a bit of a thrill in doing something that you're terrified of all the time. Roller coasters also apply, because when I was in 3rd grade, the Williams Grove roller coaster I rode, and like it hurt me like badly, because that was a very poorly regulated roller coaster, and like my tailbone got whacked and the air got knocked out of me. And being a 9-year-old and not being able to breathe on a roller coaster, you think you're dying. So I wasn't able to go on roller coasters for like 5 years after that. So yeah, I think I'm just afraid of everything, guys.
You might be.
See, I don't enjoy horror movies, and it's mostly because of the jump scares, but we did go to
Terror Farms.
Terror Farms.
Oh.
And
that was last year. Was that the first haunted house you'd been to?
Yes, and I was just underwhelmed. Now, not to say it wasn't spooky.
Spooky is good. Like, spooky can be fun. Like the Haunted Mansion for Disney World, for instance, fantastic.
Well, maybe
Haunted House in Knoebels Grove, also fantastic.
Maybe spooky is the wrong word. It was pretty scary, but it didn't.
The Terror Farms one?
Yeah, but I wasn't. The reason I use the word spooky is because it was like grotesque, and but I was leading the group because I was the least like
brave man.
I'm not sure how I got volunteered for that, but
I think. The whole point was me and Darby didn't want to be first, and so we thought one man in the front, one man in the back, and then we're fine.
Oh, okay. Well, see, here's the thing.
It was the most unfeminist thing I've ever done.
So you'd think that I would be the most subject to the jump scares because I'm leading, but because I was leading, I guess I'm just very observant, I always saw the actors before they jumped out, so I kind of like very subtly be like, "Oh, hello."
Please don't scare me,
and then they jumped
Mr.
out,
Man.
and it wasn't quite as scary.
Would you enjoy it if you had gotten the...
No, because
like
I wasn't scared, except for like one time they got me.
When did they get you?
I don't know.
But you said they got you one time. I want to know what scared you.
A guy jumped out with a chainsaw.
Oh, that's...
So from what I've heard from various people I know who've worked in haunted houses, in fact, one of the CPAs who works with us, I think she worked for Terror Farm for a couple of years too, because she had pictures of herself as a zombie. I think they try to construct them so the person in front is probably subject to the most jump scares first, but they really try to like get people in the middle. And actually the back is the most vulnerable position, which I never wanted to be in the back.
Good thing we put Sage back there.
Sage.
We didn't know that was going to be a
it just worked out.
Anyway, it worked out that way. And the thing about like haunted houses for me, like I've been to Field of Screams a few times. I've been to Terror Farms twice now, and that's the thing. Like you said, Hal, though, like I do like being scared. Like I think it's just. I don't know, it's hard to say because I also enjoy horror films. And like, for example, like Ryan and I, one of the first movies we watched together because I wanted to kind of feel him out for, how scary we could go, was Paranormal Activity.
That's actually a pretty scary movie as far as things. Like, if you saw it in the theaters, I
had never seen Paranormal Activity, and so I wanted to see a movie I hadn't seen before, and I was just like, well, let's just try it. And if I recall, like, you were pretty much fine until, like, the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not, like, psychological horror doesn't really get me. It's the jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They got more jump scary as they went on, because, like, I remember a friend of mine and I saw Paranormal Activity 2. By the way, that is a phrase that I have trouble saying all the time, Paranormal Activity. It's like rural. It's yeah. But yeah, they have you seen the second one?
I have not.
There's at least one. There's one jump scare in the second one that came out of nowhere and was very loud and was just like we were both saying it wasn't really scary. It was just more like shocking.
I always say so when people ask me like what my favorite movie is, like that's an entirely impossible question to answer, because like. What I just tell everybody is it's Hereditary, and the thing is, the thing about it is though that people are like, oh, that's your favorite movie of all time. I'm like, no, it's just that my favorite genre is horror, and then my favorite horror movie is Hereditary. So
I'll have to give I'll have to give Hereditary another watch then, because I remember I watched it about a year ago. I remember, and I was fairly underwhelmed by it for whatever reason, but the twist was interesting.
Yes.
I drive a lot further away from telephone poles now, for sure.
Well, and that's the thing about Hereditary is that, like, first of all, the twist is really good. I did not see it coming whatsoever, and so I always give a movie major props when I don't see it coming. Which actually, Barbarian lost points for me because of that.
Still haven't seen Barbarian, but now that's spooky season, I've got like. Yeah. All these like Barbarian is saved under there. Pearl and X I have both saved.
I haven't seen those either, so I definitely want to watch those.
But like, fair or not, like I tend to compare a certain filmmaker's movies against their other movies as well. And Midsommar, or just like, it didn't necessarily scare me more than Hereditary.
Right.
Hereditary was scarier, but for whatever reason, the situations that they put in Midsommar just were more. I don't want to say they scarred me either, because they didn't, but they were just more interesting. Like, they were scary situations I hadn't seen before, but they were like slow burn scary situations. I can't really describe it any other way besides that.
Well, unfortunately, you will not get a refund for Midsommar.
Oh, well, I didn't pay anything for it, so.
That's a Shannon joke.
Well,
because you used to work at the AMC in Camp Hill.
Yeah, and they tried to come and get a refund like 4 weeks later, and I was like, no, like you've had 4 weeks to sit on this. Like, you either have a problem the same day or it's not a problem.
I only got a refund one time for any movie, and that was my sister and I went to go see The Village in 2004, and the crowd, for whatever reason, for that particular movie, they were very rowdy. They were making fun of everything. And, like, the ushers clearly lost control of the crowd there, which I'm sure has happened before.
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't, like, hear anything in the movie, and it was just ridiculous. And I was 19 and angry, so I demanded a refund, and I got a free ticket to another movie.
Tell you what, I think that's pretty fair.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like the movie was just not good,
No, it's more like, and to be honest, like, I mean, I was salty about that happening, but like, I felt so bad for those ushers in, like, retrospect, because it was like this, like, 19 or 20-year-old kid who just, like, would walk up and down the aisle trying to show some sort of like control over an audience of 150 people who clearly he had lost control.
Well, I'll give some advice about, like, movies, because, like, as a movie theater manager, I had a certain criteria for when I would give a refund. And so the way I see it is, like, most times if it has to do with your experience, I will give you a refund. Like, if, something was dirty, or there were unruly people in the theater.
Or if it was framed improperly or something.
Yeah, if it's about the experience, 9 times out of 10, I'll give you a refund. Now, if it's like I didn't like the movie, I usually go by like, well, if you're more than like 30 minutes into it, I'm not giving you a refund. So I'll give you a free pass to another movie, but I'm not refunding the ticket that you bought. So that was how I was as a movie theater manager. I mean, other people might think differently, but like if it was under 30 minutes, I was like, well, if you are just saying like, yeah, this isn't grabbing me, or if this isn't the movie I expected, like I understand that.
That's actually more that's more kind than I would expect for a movie theater person, especially in today's day and age. I might just be like, you had a lot of opportunity to research this, shit out of luck.
Well, and that was the thing with that guy. I was like, you sat through the entire film. I was there that day. You consumed the product that we gave you. And it's kind of like at a restaurant, you know, if you eat the whole meal, like, and then you say something about it, like, no. That's not appropriate nor cool. So I'm not.
This
giving
was
you
gross.
A refund. Yeah, it's like you ate all of it.
I always research movies before we watch them, and then I'll be like, Shannon, you know, this got like a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is such a bad because everybody. Like it used to be like maybe 20 years ago a good metric to see. And good might even be a strong word because like it still was a very, very flawed metric. But at this point, like studios and other people game it so much that you can't like really figure out if a movie is good or not. Like so many movies I love have like 50 to like 54% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And it's all subjective. It's about
the
what
thing
you
about
like.
Rotten Tomatoes is it's not about how good the movie was. It's about how likely you are to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's
that once you realize that, it's a way better gauge.
Still a bad. And the audience reaction isn't any better either because technically, like, I feel like a lot of people who go to see a movie are probably going to enjoy it based on like the research that they can do ahead of time. Like, for instance, this will amuse you a little bit, and I don't know why I did this, but the third part of Atlas Shrugged popped up on my like Amazon Prime account a couple of nights ago, and I was like, okay, this was something that interested me when I was 18 years
Really,
old.
how? Ayn Rand.
I watch 10 minutes of it.
Ayn Rand.
And it was so bad.
You're killing me.
I was like, man, this was 18-year-old Hal. Like, how far you've come in 20 years. But I was fascinated by how bad, because like the best summation I've ever heard of Atlas Shrugged or Ayn Rand in general was from Party Down, where one of the people was trying to explain. She's like, well, she wrote about how awesome people can be. And I'm like, that's the perfect summation because it doesn't necessarily punch down for a very bad philosophy, but it explains why it's so dumb at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was sort of obsessed with how bad the 10 minutes I saw of this movie were. So I was Wikipedia and all of it before. And the, Rotten Tomatoes scores were like 0% because these were shit movies. But the people who went to see them were already going to be wanting to do it before, like enjoy it beforehand. So it got like a 95% audience participation, and they noted in the Wikipedia article that half the votes had come before the movie had even come out. So
that's kind of an interesting concept that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of, you know, what I will give my time to in terms of consuming stuff. And I think maybe we've talked about this before.
It's daunting because there's so much content these days.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's the thing is like I used to, like, if I started a book, I had to finish it. Didn't matter how bad it was. But now I can't tell you how many books, like, how many times have you seen me, like, pick up a book, get through the first chapter and be like, nope. And like,
well, and not as many times as you have finished books, but also, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, with movies, it's a win-win with Shannon, you see, because if it's a bad movie, or if it's a good movie, Shannon's like, oh, this movie's awesome. If it's a bad movie, Shannon's like, oh, this movie's awesome.
This is exactly how I consume movies, too. I love bad movies.
Movies, I give a lot of grace to. And the reason why I give movies a lot of grace and maybe I don't give books a lot of grace is that like with movies, I'm like, that's the story that they wanted to tell, and that's, you know, the direction that it went. And so I have an appreciation most times for that.
Yeah.
Now, there are very few movies that I've legitimately just walked away from for any particular reason. I was thinking about, I really can't think of one that I've literally walked out of. But I mean, I think I can think of plenty of books that the first book I ever like very specifically was like, I'm hating this. I'm not going to finish it. And There are other books that I've not finished because they were just too difficult for me to read. And it was like, for example, like Wuthering Heights. I tried to read that for years and just couldn't get into it. But like I got about halfway, possibly more than halfway through American Psycho, and I hated it.
Yeah, we've discussed American Psycho before, I think, because I have not read the book, but I love the movie. The movie is a fantastic adaptation of that story.
Yeah.
And also like a masterclass in interesting filmmaking. But the book, a couple of friends of mine have told me like things that happen in the book. And I'm like, no.
It's disturbing.
No.
Like the only word I can think of is vulgar. And it's very strange because I've seen the entire Saw series. Like my threshold for vulgar is not very high.
Oh my God. I saw not a trailer, but like a promotional scene they released for the new Saw movie. And I was like, nope, this is not my thing. Like it was the eye vacuum.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that trailer yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to watch Saw 10 or not.
Yeah, it's about as weird as you... I mean, weird is the wrong word.
Gives your eyeballs the suck.
So I enjoyed the Saw movies to a certain point, not like just because like the plot got so ridiculous with the original series.
The first 3 movies are spectacular. In my opinion, like some of the greatest storytelling I've ever...
Before Jigsaw dies.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Spoiler alert.
Well, there's like 10 other movies afterwards.
He put it in quotes.
Oh, okay.
You know, dies is a strong word when we're not putting it in quotes.
Somehow Saw returned.
Well, they had interesting concepts behind it. Like I remember like the second one making it into a big house was kind of an interesting thing. Also, the only thing I ever saw Lucy from Seventh Heaven in outside of Seventh Heaven. But then the third one also made it like an overarching plot because it was like the dad whose like son or something was killed by a distracted driver, and like all the people responsible for it were victims in these mechanisms or something. So they had interesting ideas to sort of tie them together. And then starting with the fourth one, it became just...
It started to go downhill.
Yeah, it became like Lachlan Monroe became the...
I still watched it because, and what was most interesting to me about the Saw movies, and I don't know if maybe this is more of like Shannon likes torture porn, but let me put some context to that sentence. I think it was mostly about like the situations that they were in, like thinking to myself, like, what would I do? Like, I don't know. I like kind of that brain exercise of like, you know, thinking like, would this be an impossible task for me to overcome? And most times the answer is yes, I would probably die.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting, like, just thinking about the first Saw movie, because the first Saw movie, like, the situation they had there, I feel like was very different. And that was James Wan's, like, debut movie, also with Lee Wannell, because they went on to do, like, so many other better horror movies. And I've often wondered, like, if they had stayed with the Saw franchise, if, like, the direction... Because Lee Wannell was still involved in writing, I think, until the third one. And then, like, they've gone on to do the Sinister movie. No, not Sinister. They did Insidious, The Conjurings, which, for the most part, are good movies, minus The Devil Made Me Do It.
Fuck The Devil Made Me Do It. That was the worst movie and ruined the Conjuring series for me. And I saw the trailers for The Nun 2, and I am livid. I haven't even seen the film, and I honestly didn't like The Nun that much to begin with. And
I don't understand the concept of The Nun, because The Nun was like, that was the second Conjuring movie, right? Yeah. And they said that the nun was actually not a nun but a demon. So I wasn't 100% sure like how they brought the demon back, because I thought that they like got rid of it. I don't know.
Well, no, it's an origin story for like the nun. Not even an origin story, but like it's set in the past. Like,
also
way past.
Annabelle too. That was a Conjuring story that spawned several movies.
Annabelle was better than the Nun movies.
I saw the first one, and then I just wasn't that interested in the rest of them.
I mean, you kind of have to be into doll horror, which I haven't really gotten much into. Like, I've only seen the first Child's Play. I did see the remake because it came out on my birthday. And it also came out the same day that Toy Story 4 came out. And
oh, wow.
Doll horror. I don't know.
Doll horror.
Oh, doll horror. I was going to say, like, if a movie genre starts with doll, I'm probably not interested.
That's why it doesn't exist,
Bob
right?
Dole, the movie.
Yeah.
Child's Play became more funny humor, I feel like, throughout the... And also they had the...
I kind of file that under Gremlins.
Yeah, they also had the gift of having Brad Dourif as being Chucky for the everything, which Brad Dourif is on my list of incredibly underrated actors who make everything better that they're in. And I didn't even know he was Chucky until later in the game, and I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Ryan, what's your favorite horror movie?
You
What's your
like
favorite
torture
scary
porn.
movie?
I like torture and porn. We are not the same. So I'm really into what do I like any horror movies?
You liked The Shining.
Shining is like a different. There's
Yeah, I mean,
more
it's
like a
Kubrick. It's not really horror.
It's more like scary thriller. Is
Yeah.
that fair?
yeah.
I did like The Shining though. Very good film.
The Shining was something that had to grow on me a little bit because we've discussed this before. Loved the book, and the movie dynamics are very, very
I think
different.
I'm gonna reread The Shining here soon.
It's spooky season. It's a
Yeah.
good time for it.
I have a couple other Stephen King books to read before I get there, but because he just came out with Holly. Have you read Mr. Mercedes?
No, but I read a review of Holly actually because they said that it's Stephen King has not been that political in a lot of his writings, and they said that Holly was like a very against the cuff, incredibly political book from him.
I did see that. I haven't read it yet, but I did buy it. Now the thing with Stephen King is like he's a pretty like strongly opinionated person.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
he
very.
had a lot to say about Trump. Had a lot to say
About
in
Bush,
general.
even. Yeah.
Well, and like he wrote 11/22/63, which was all about the JFK assassination. Which I think he took some pretty hard stances in that novel. And
Yeah.
so it's not unusual for Stephen King to be political. I also just read Revival. Revival was incredibly and he is like religious. He's not like specifically like a denominationally.
Yeah, his daughter's a Unitarian minister, I want to say, or something like that too.
Yeah, when you look at his website, it says that like he believes in God, but I don't think he really subscribes to any particular following, like any particular Christianity.
Which is really funny because I remember one of the stories about The Shining while they were shooting it is that Stanley Kubrick would call up Stephen King at like the oddest hours of night and ask him questions like, "Do you believe in God?" And Stephen King would be like, "No," and then he would hang up on him, because he got the information he needed, I guess.
Well, that's the thing is like, if you haven't read Revival, like that's probably one of his most like critical books, like what, because he really brings up a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for, concerns about like the church and like that whole it's a really great novel, and I didn't expect it to be as great as it was, so definitely a good one to read if you like Stephen King. And
we fawned over Stephen King a lot on this podcast because in fact, I was just having a talk with my friend Steve about this. Actually,
Stephen King?
No, different Steve.
They're on a first name shortened basis.
My friend Steve, ever since he dated my mom in the 90s.
See, that's how it happens.
But Stephen King is like a source of like weirdly very like, I think because he's like considered to be genre fiction, a lot of people don't take him quite as seriously, but he has so much good advice on so many things. Like, for instance, I'll let you say what you want to say first, because this will be a longer story.
Well, I was just thinking Elevation is another example of him being a little bit more, not, I guess political is the right word, but like being kind of woke.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this is a bit of a longer story because this was another interesting thing that happened this week. So my parents came out to see me do stand-up on Thursday, which was very nice because we played in the poker game beforehand, and it was a rare Thursday where I had off, so I could just devote my whole night to that. And my dad kind of got it in his head. He wanted to try stand-up that particular night. And I was like, I mean, my dad is not a funny person. Love my dad in a lot of ways. But he like will very often be like, Hal, I've got a great joke idea for you. And it won't even be bad. It'll just be like an incomplete thought. It'll be something like, okay, so I was walking to the trash the other day and the trash can was knocked down. So I looked at the grass.
Okay.
As you do.
Dad, is that the end of the joke? Well, if I have to explain it to you, it's not funny. Another long silence. But in any case, my attitudes towards these things are not like binary, like win or lose. Like it's more, I've seen lots of people do bad stand-up, as I'm sure you have. I've seen myself do bad stand-up.
Oh, yeah. I've seen myself do bad stand-up.
And for me, it was kind of like, this would be a cool thing for Dad to try. Yeah, he's going to bomb because he's an older guy. His sense of humor is not that great, and the audience was not that great. But let him get up and do it. And my mom was like adamantly against. She said I would have to drive my dad home if he did stand-up, which made me feel so bad for him. And then like she actually explained her stance a little bit more the next day. She was like, the way your father operates is that, like, if he loses anything, he gets incredibly depressed. It's all very binary for him. It's win or lose, no lessons gained from failing at something. And she didn't want him to get super depressed because there was no chance in hell that any of his jokes were going to land, which was true.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I understand a little bit more now, but like going back to Stephen King, back to my original point, one of the greatest things Stephen King said that always resonated with me was he's in a, I don't know if you knew this, but he's in a rock band with like Dave Barry and Matt Groening called the Rock Bottom Remainders. And I read an interview with him in a Guitar World magazine when I was like in high school about the Remainders. And they asked him, it's like, so are you guys any good? And he's like, oh, fuck no, we are awful. We are so terrible, and none of us should be playing music. But just, his exact words were, just because you're bad at something and shouldn't be doing it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And I was like, well, that's very profound. Like, it's cool that he can just enjoy doing something and not being very good at it. And he's like, all the interviews with him, he's chock full of these pieces of advice, like some sort of folk hero, but nobody seems to like care because he's not like a serious fiction writer or whatever that means.
I don't know who says that, but they're incredibly wrong.
Oh my God. You have
yeah.
no idea. Like all of my, and he even addresses this in a lot of his books that like literary professors hate him. Every single one of like my film professors and like my writing teachers all really disliked Stephen King, except for one who actually assigned us On Writing as the book that we should read before writing fiction. And like I took a film adaptation class actually, I want to say it was my second to last year at Hofstra, and we read a lot of really interesting books inspired by movies. Like we did Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Searchers, and one of the ones that somebody brought up in the class was like, the most adapted author by pure number of like unique works adapted is Stephen King. Like, are we going to watch any Stephen King? And she referred to him as garbage and pulp, and there was no way that she was going to show us a Stephen King movie because his books were not worth reading.
That's so dumb. But here's the thing, like historically, Stephen King, his works have been difficult to adapt to film.
Yeah.
Which does not mean that the books are bad. It just means that they are good in the medium that they are.
You'd think that would make it for a better assignment.
Yeah.
Right.
Wouldn't it?
That's what I would say.
But you see, this teacher does not subscribe to the Stephen King axiom of failing is important.
Yeah.
She only wanted to assign us the good stuff.
If it's not art fiction, it's not. It's garbage.
Which is funny because Breakfast at Tiffany's was not exactly art fiction when that was released, and I love the movie, but there are Stephen King adaptations that are significantly better. Like The Shining, for instance, would have been a very interesting assignment because it's considered to be a very good movie now, even though it was nominated for Razzies when it came out. And it's so different than the source material that would be very interesting, I would think.
It would be an interesting exercise in saying, like, okay, so seeing this adaptation, like, why do you think these choices were made? What would you do differently as a filmmaker? I just think those are really good questions to ask. Because, like, definitely Kubrick's Shining is nowhere near the quality that the book is, in my opinion.
See, it's a difficult. If you'd asked me 15 to 20 years ago, I would have agreed with you so hard on that. But now, like, I don't know. Kubrick Shining is his own different thing, and it's so layered in so many different ways that I don't want to like.
I think it's something you have to see. Like when I saw The Shining before reading the book, because I did watch the movie first.
Yeah, same here.
Like that on its own with no other like comparison, I think it's like my second favorite horror movie. It's like it's really up there for me. But I kind of see it as almost entirely a separate entity from the book. You dropped something.
Oh, Hal's keys just got dropped.
Damn it! We have to start over.
Yeah, delete the 48 minutes before this.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I agree with that. It's a different. Like, did you ever see? We've talked about this. Did you ever see the miniseries of The Shining? I forget.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's worth watching because it is a faithful adaptation, and he had 4.5 hours to do it, so he had more time to throw in like the slow burn drama of Jack's alcoholism, for instance, and it's scary in different ways. But it's not nearly as good as the Kubrick adaptation.
I wasn't sure if you were about to say it was like the Shining version of the Star Wars Christmas special.
Not that bad.
Oh, okay.
But I used to have
that's good.
Yeah, I used to have a DVD of the Star Wars Christmas special someplace, and I think I lost it. But it wasn't really. If you've never seen it, it's not worth
for the
watching. It's probably. I want to say it's on YouTube, but I know George Lucas has been so adamant about never having that shown that it's probably not on YouTube anywhere. But yeah, since we're talking horror movie stuff,
Vidjam.
we could talk about VidJam again. I guess.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to be like, what are more scary movies that you like?
Oh. Well, I mean, I'm excited that Open Stage is doing The Exorcist because I'm going to go to that with Cassie probably.
Yeah, Lauren and I are going to try to go too because Josh is in The Exorcist. And it's interesting because did I mention like how he had? I think Wallace was discussing like what his character is going to be like in this version.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that that's very interesting, and it's something I didn't get from the original Exorcist at all.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I saw Josh last night because he came to our Offbeats show, and he was just coming from Exorcist rehearsals. So,
In fact, as we were binge watching Ken Jennings' run on Jeopardy, The Exorcist was one of the responses.
oh, very cool.
It was the final Jeopardy question.
It's all come full circle, baby.
Yeah, look how we did it.
The Exorcist is such an interesting, like there's so much interesting trivia behind The Exorcist.
Yes.
Like the fact that it was briefly the highest grossing movie of all time, which for a movie that absolutely like terrified different sects of people on different levels, that's shocking to me that many people wanted to be scared that it was the highest grossing movie of all time
Well,
before Star Wars.
It's also shocking that what is happening?
Oh no, now we have to start over.
No, I'm sorry. It's reminding me to take my medication, and I apologize for that.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm the only. Oh no, I hiccuped a second ago. So
yeah. That's been. Speaking of medication, I've been in a bit of a weird mood this week because I ended up going back to my full dosage of my Zoloft. I had been on half doses since like April, which I think was doing okay, but mostly like just lately I've gotten very much more anxious. So gone back to the full 50 milligrams, and I feel it's been a bit of an odd week in that sense. Like last night, actually, we had our Offbeat show, which I was incredibly proud of and worked out very well. But like I was feeling super loopy, so rather than be on stage, I just played the music for it, which I think ended up working out better anyway because less people to share stage time and a more dedicated musician rather than having somebody pull double duty. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I just didn't feel like being on stage, didn't feel like being seen that much, if that means
Oh no,
anything.
I completely relate.
But the show was fantastic though. We did the two suggestions we got were Braveheart and Back to the Future.
That would have been fun.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I got to laugh at Shannon because she thought that there were autism medications.
Interesting.
There
aren't.
Did you not know either? Yeah.
It's never something I've thought about, but yeah, I would assume there's none.
Turns out that they are out there, but it's basically snake oil.
Yeah. Oh, it's like something Alex Jones would advertise on his program.
And they're putting it in the water, and it's turning all the frogs gay.
With the crab people.
Yeah. Oh, what I was gonna say about The Exorcist.
Oh, sorry. Back to The Exorcist.
I was saying that because you said like it was the highest grossing movie for a minute. What I think is interesting is, I mean, overall horror movies don't get the love they deserve from like the critics, and like, I mean, you never see them win any Oscars except for The Exorcist.
And I guess Silence of the Lambs was considered a horror movie when that came out. I don't know if that's more in the thriller for me, definitely.
Well, yeah.
Although he does like rip people apart and wear their faces, so I guess that's
true.
scary.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty scary. Did I tell you So there are some horror movies that I'm getting around to watching that I've never seen before.
Ooh, okay.
And this past year I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's a good, I mean.
I hated it. I hated it
so much.
And I don't, like, it just did not interest me. Like, I didn't feel, I don't know.
There's some weird moments in there. Like the wheelchair brother, for instance, is almost like comedic at this point. But I think like, I hate saying this, but for its time and in its context, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was such a scary movie when it came out. And it's also like a great independent film story as well.
I like the trivia around it. I've seen a lot of trivia, but I mean, I was watching it and I was just kind of waiting for it to be over.
It was it existed very much in its own era, where like it very much billed itself as based on a true story, which it's just based on Ed Gein, like a lot of stories.
Right.
Which Ed Gein was not like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre wielding person. He was like in Minnesota or somewhere. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm really surprised that's because they've done like 30 of those movies at this point, right?
Yeah.
It was like
that's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that many movies.
Because they like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, I think, went for 5 or 6 movies, and then when I was a freshman in college, they rebooted it with Jessica Biel, which was an interesting. Like that was before reboots really were a thing, so we were really excited for that. And then that series ran for like 5 movies, and then they've kept redoing it a bunch of times. So, yeah, it's a. Yeah.
It just didn't grab me.
The thing I always remember about that is like an American movie, probably my favorite movie of all time, and definitely favorite documentary. The guy who wants to make horror movies mentions Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he said the reason it spoke to him is every frame looked like a 16mm accident movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like that they would show you in driver's ed class of people in car crashes. They didn't do that for us when we did driver's ed, but.
No, my high school just had me paint my face white and walk around the rest of the day without talking to discourage drunk driving.
Nice.
Yeah,
we had a mock accident where did they do that for you?
Oh my God, that's such a bad thing. Like I've heard about high schools doing this.
But like in the morning, literally the valedictorian dressed as the Grim Reaper brought me to, tap my shoulder. And I walked to the bathroom to paint my face. Did that several other times. And then they made an announcement in the morning saying that I died in a drunk driving car accident.
Oh.
And
Did people know?
People thought it was real and thought I died and were consoling my sister.
This is horrible. Like
That is horrible.
I don't think this actually keeps anybody from drunk driving because it doesn't it does not address what the actual issue is with drunk driving, and it just scars people.
They just straight up told us our goal is to scare the hell out of you.
Like, is Shannon okay?
No, she knew. I told her about it, but people were like, I'm so sorry that your brother died. And she was like, no, it's a school activity.
A school activity.
No, like for my school, we literally had the cars and they got emergency services out, and there was a helicopter and like
a helicopter. Well,
yeah, it was like wild. It was like
and
lifeline
then
kind of thing.
They collect money so you can destroy the cars further. Did they do that for you?
I think so.
For
Yeah.
like charity or something, or for the Four Diamonds Fund.
So we have about 5 minutes. Hal has to work today, unfortunately, so we can't let it go that much longer. But what do you got coming up? I know you have Sarah Cartwright's spooky stand-up thing.
Yes, the Monster Mash comedy shows on October 21st. That's all I got.
I guess this is different then because they were passing out a flyer at open mic on Thursday about like 3 days of dressing up in like a costume for comedy. Like it's like the 27th, 28th, and 29th of October because they were looking for comics for it. And I was like, I'm on vacation then. I could probably do that.
That's neat.
And I thought that might be the same show that you were doing. But
no, mine's different. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Ryan and I have wedding stuff coming up and, things just getting...
It's getting closer.
It is. Less than 50 days now. So, looking forward to that. And then VidJam.
Yeah, VidJam starts on Wednesday, so Ryan, you and I have to get to cracking to writing the song.
Yeah.
I think I've put together... I added both of you to the group chat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we've been... The thing that's gotten me killed the last 2 years is not even discussing scheduling with people until the thing started. So it's been good to like see what everybody's availability is. I have a flow chart of what days some people are good for, and some are just not going to fit in it, unfortunately. But
sad day.
Yeah, we'll figure something out, and I think it's going to be pretty fun. I went shopping for like Goodwill store things for VidJam, which I'm excited about. Should be a fun time. Starts Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you haven't registered, like I haven't registered yet, you should probably register so we know how many props we need to issue.
Harold.
I know.
Well, I have nothing coming up, but I have been doing a lot of composing. One for a trombone choir competition. But I am excited to be actually, applying some of that for something that's more likely to be exposed to the general public.
I have a few people who've offered to like give us studio space to try to record things too. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do this. And really, I've been putting it off, A, because I'm lazy, but B, want to save as much for the actual competition as possible without violating the rules, because we're rules followers here.
That's right.
Yeah, we are.
And just
Lawful good.
But I'm excited. We do need a location still, though. So if anybody out there has like a spooky singular location, I think I'm just going to jigsaw it together because there's a there's an abandoned like concrete plant or something down on Boas Street, like between Boas and Cameron in Harrisburg that I drive by whenever I go to the Improv Theater, and it looks really scary. And it's like I'm like, you know, what we should do is we should just film all the exteriors here and then film the interiors someplace else. I'm giving away the movie magic. Don't give it away for free.
Hal. Anyway.
We just won't do that. It'll be a distraction.
Yeah.
But yeah, VidJam, I don't have any more improv the rest of the month because it's a 5 Friday month. And yeah, so that's all I got going on is like the horror VidJam. But go see Shannon on October 21st for her show. And love Ryan as he should be loved.
I just don't do things.
You're going to be our trombone and helper composer. So
Yeah.
yeah, in fact, I'll send you the I did like a brief recording of just the hook that I came up with for horror VidJam. So I'll send that to you. It's pretty like my piano knowledge and ability to play is very basic. So
The
it's
more
just
simple, the better.
It's really just 4 descending chords for one part of the hook, and then the same 4 descending chords for the second part, but the right hand stays on the same chords for a variance. So, yeah. But anyway, thank you all for listening so much. This has been a fun week of talking about spooky things and what scares us and Ryan. So yeah,
What scares us and Ryan.
And Ryan. So I've been Hal.
I've been Shannon.
I'm still Ryan.
Ryan is still Ryan. Yeah, we're all talking in the
I'm
past
working
tense.
on it. Yeah.
Anyway, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.